Hello everyone, my name is Goji2002 and today we are going to be taking a look at the Hiya Toys Exquisite Basic King of the Monsters Burning Godzilla and the Hiya Toys Exquisite Basic Mothra Emerald Titan version, which is right here. So, I picked both these figures up from GameStop, not sponsored, by the way, just gonna say that. So, Burning Godzilla, I got three weeks ago, and Mothra, I would say about around a month ago, because Mothra was just there, and I was like, might as well to complete the King of the Monsters. I don't have Rodan or Ghidorah yet, hoping that I get those at some point. And so, we're going to be just doing a review, basic review of the figures, starting off with the height of the figures, height and length technically, because Mothra can't really be measured in height, but in the wingspan you can. Paint and detail, articulation, and then finally capping it off with a size comparison. So, we are going to be starting off with the paint and detail for Godzilla. For the paint and detail of Burning Godzilla, you can see that he's orange, to say the least. He's orange, yellow, with a little bit of black and gray mixed in. He's essentially, you could say, he's the Doritos nacho cheese version of, well, the base Godzilla design. I don't have the base Godzilla, but I do have the GVK Atomic Translucent Godzilla, and you could essentially say this guy is Doritos nacho cheese of this guy. I've heard the term Doritos nacho cheese thrown around for Burning Godzilla, so, but looking besides that, from Atomic Ray Godzilla, the paint on this figure is amazing. I mean, there isn't really a screen accurate version of this version of Godzilla, but you can see that the spines, the dorsal plates, are painted kind of like the normal atomic version of Godzilla, where it kind of gives off a glowing effect, where it's a lot brighter at the base and comes up to be a little darker to kind of bring out a glow effect on the figure. And then you got all of like the orangey details going in. And honestly, the paint is pretty well done. Like, it's not like too yellow, too orange, too red. My only real problem is with his head sculpt. It does look a little too dark around like the chin area here, you can see, and this looks a little too yellow compared to the rest of here. Like here on this neck piece here, these two does look a little bit muddy compared to, let's say, like the rest of the dorsal plates. Moving down his tail, it honestly wonderful. The paint, it does kind of continue into the joints. You can see here, it kind of continues in. Same thing with his legs and underbelly. All of the detailing on Godzilla is amazing. That's really all I can say. For sculpt, I don't think it's much different from their other Godzilla designs. I'm pretty sure the sculpt is mostly the same. Like, looking at them side by side, you can't really see that there is much difference between the head sculpts. But I could be wrong. Comment below if they're actually the difference, and I just can't see it. But painting is definitely different. You can tell because, well, one's essentially just orange and this one's plain gray with blue. Well, not plain gray is, yeah. So that about does it for the painted detail of Burning Godzilla. Now let's move on to Mothra. For the paint and detail on Mothra, like, she's essentially just going to be a emerald recolor of the first release of Mothra. Like, you're not gonna be able to see too much detail because of it's all like greened and grayed out. Well, mostly green and tealed out, if you will. But what detail is there is great. Like, you can see her face, you can see like little ridges on her tentacles, and even on the back, there is detail there. Then on the wings, the wing pattern is very well done. I really like this design for Mothra. It's one of the best designs, but it's still pretty good. And the wings are semi-transparent. So if you, I don't know if you see my hand, yeah, you can kind of see it. But if you do put some light behind Mothra, she will shine. The wings will shine just a little bit, but they're not fully translucent like Godzilla is. So, and I don't have anything to compare Mothra's sculpt and design to. I'm pretty sure the sculpt is pretty much the same as the original Mothra that Hiya did, but I don't have that figure, so I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's basically exactly the same. So now we'll be doing an articulation check on Godzilla. For articulation on Godzilla, I don't think much is going to change from what I said about the translucent Godzilla. I'm pretty sure translucent Godzilla is made of a softer plastic, so when I first handled him, I was like, wow, that's a lot harder of a plastic. But for articulation, he is very fun to pose. You can't get him into too many complex poses because of the limited articulation from Hiya, but what articulation is there is pretty good. So there is a ball joint at the base of the head here, a hinge joint at the jaw, which allows him to open his mouth, and a hinge joint at his tongue, which allows you to move it up and down. Then there is a second ball joint at the base of the neck right about here, which allows him to look up, not quite far, but not as far as I'd like, and he can't really look down at all, which sucks. So moving on to his arm, here there is a ball joint at his arm, I believe. So you move out that far, down that far, you can get a full 360 rotation, a swivel hinge joint at his wrist, at the elbow, not the wrist, and then a ball joint at the wrist, which I don't know why, but this one's way better. But this arm is a lot stiffer as well. Moving on to his torso, there isn't much there, but if you do push just a tiny bit, you can get a bit of an ab crunch and a not very good arcing back. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that the softer plastic does help with posing just a tiny bit, but other than that, we're going to move on to his legs. So there is a ball joint at the hip. Can't spread at all. Well, there's a decent spread, but not good enough. You can't. If you move the arm out of the way, you can get a full 360 rotation. And there is a double hinge at his knee, I'm pretty sure. Because on the other knee, you can it does kind of double bend. And then no ankle or there's an ankle swivel, kind of. And there is indeed an ankle pivot, but it isn't. It's really good out, but not super good in. And finally, moving on to Godzilla's tail. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 segments at the tail, which allow you to get some pretty curvy poses, but you're not really going to get anything when you try to get it to go up, because it can only really go up about that far off the ground. Most of the time it's going to be flat or curved in one direction. And so that about concludes the articulation on Burning Godzilla. Let's do Mothra now. For Mothra's articulation, let's just get her off of the stand here. So there is nothing at her head. There's no like ball joint or anything. So her head is usually kept in this neutral pose, you could say. But there is I think a very limited ball joint at the big pincers, the big kind of claws. But there are indeed 2 very tiny ball joints at the inside ones. Same thing with the back. They only really move back and forth as such. I'm pretty sure there is a joint. There's like a ball joint at the abdomen here, but I can't really get it to move anywhere. But it does indeed swivel back and forth. Moving on to the big wings, there is a hinge joint swivel here, which is very small, and same thing with the bottom wings, hinge joint with a swivel. That pretty much does it for articulation for Mothra. There isn't a lot, but you can still do quite a lot with Mothra's included stand here. Godzilla sadly doesn't have any accessories, but it's Burning Godzilla. He doesn't really have anything going for him other than his nuclear pulse. So, but with Mothra, you do indeed get a stand base and 3 stand arms. The stand to clip Mothra on is the shit. God damn it. Oh, where'd that go? Frick. Okay, so essentially, I'll find that later. For Mothra, you have you essentially have like a claw type piece like this. Come on, focus camera. You have like a claw type piece here that will hold Mothra in place, as well as 3 other stand arms as such, like these 3 here. And that pretty much does it for the articulation segments on both of the figures. With the help of our lovely NECA Shin Godzilla, we can see that Burning Godzilla will be sitting at just over 7 inches tall, which is bigger than SH Monster Arts, and 2 inches smaller than my biggest Godzilla figure, the Movie Monster Series Godzilla 2003. And Mothra will be sitting at just over 1 inch tall. But the thing is, with Mothra's wingspan here, if I lay her down like this, she is longer than 12 inches. I'm pretty sure her wingspan is about 14 inches, that's pretty big. That is pretty big. And for the size comparison, we have the very tiny Mechagodzilla 2 from Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, Funko Shadow the Hedgehog, SH Monster Arts Godzilla 2002, and lastly, we have the MMS Movie Monster Series Godzilla 2003. And the size comparison for Mothra goes about the same. Mini Mechagodzilla 2, Shadow the Hedgehog, SH Monster Arts 2002 Godzilla, and finally, Movie Monster Series Godzilla 2003. If you are a fan of Godzilla King of the Monsters, I would highly recommend picking up these 2 figures wherever you can find them. You can pick up either Emerald Titan Mothra or normal Mothra. The pose you can get these guys into is very great, very amazing. So that about does it for me. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.